So this week is Parsha's Matos-Maasei, and it's a two Torah portions are connected together, and we see a special command that God Almighty gives to Moses to gather together 1,000 from each of the tribes of the Jewish people to be able to wage war against the nation of Midian. The nation of the Midian had actually a prophet, a non-Jewish prophet, who was enlisted into the service of another nation called Moab in the previous um, Parshas Balak, to try to derail the Jewish people spiritually through cursing them to prevent the Jewish people from being able to come into the land of Israel, and even before the land of Israel, so it would not be a threat to these nations. And so this Bilam, who was the leader of the nation of Midian, he failed in his attempt to try to curse the Jewish people. God filled his spirit with actual blessings, and then he tried to figure, okay, what could he possibly do to derail the Jewish people next? And he figured it was through by seducing the men with the daughters of this other nation, and it was successful to some extent that a certain number of people fell into the trap. And in the process of that seduction, these girls, women, persuaded the Jewish men to worship idols also. So it was a terrible, terrible tragedy, which culminated in the great heroism that we saw in last week's Parsha, that Pinchas stood up and he took the lives of one of the leaders of the Jewish people, who was having relations with a woman that he was not supposed to have relations with, and as a result, he was able to save the Jewish people from this tremendous consequence, a tremendous plague that was happening, and really stand up on behalf of God Almighty zealously. And so in this week's Parsha, God commands Moses to go and take revenge to correct the God's honor and the honor of the Jewish people that was thwarted by this person who had done so much to harm the Jewish people. And so the interesting question is, who is and what is this nation of Midian? And the word in Hebrew for Midian is from the language from Madon, which means to rebel, to cause strife. And in reality, the fundamental underlying spiritual principle of this nation of Midian was constantly trying to create strife, constantly trying to separate between God and the people, trying to separate between the people, create strife in every single every single opportunity. What happens, how do we see this happening in our own lives? We see that when we are in a situation where we think we have a reason not to like somebody else, really our dislike of them is because we can't tolerate that other person. We're not able to boil to tolerate the existence of that other person. Afterwards, we come up with all kinds of rationale to say, oh, this person, he doesn't do this right, or he does too much of that, and all kinds of righteous explanations to ourselves as to justify why we can't stand that person. But that's not the real reason. That's after the fact. The real reason is that we can't stand the person. I can't stand this person because I can't tolerate that he exists. That's how this spiritual klipa, this spiritual concealment of godliness of Midian has effect in our lives. And so therefore God Almighty is saying that if you want to heal the damage that was caused to God's name, it's really required that you have to not only neutralize that enemy in the physical sense, but also in the spiritual sense, to recognize to what degree am I upset at other people, but not because of really holy reasons. All my holy justifications are based on me trying to look holy in my own eyes. I don't like the other person, but it's not fitting for a person of my stature to just dislike somebody because I can't stand the fact they exist. So therefore, in keeping with my stature, I have to have a really good reason why I don't like that person. And the reason I don't like that person is because he is such a low life. He's such a this. He's such a this. He's not this. He's not that. All these kind of justifications, which now actually enhance the credibility in my own eyes of why I don't like him, and it makes a very convincing story when I try to explain to other people why I don't like him. I've got a whole list. In fact, you see sometimes there's people that they make coalitions, they enlist other people to try to enlist people to not like somebody, to try to topple somebody. It's a constant state of humanity that many the people they perceive this way in the world. So what's our job? Our job is to recognize that when we don't like somebody, the real issue is that I am not able to tolerate that other person. And forget the excuses, forget the details of the excuses. I can't tolerate him. So now I have to realize that's coming from that's not a holy experience. And if I was really cognizant of God Almighty and everything being one with God Almighty, I would not have anything that I would not be able to tolerate, because as a matter of fact, everything's been created by God. Everyone is being created by God Almighty. So I'd be able to handle their existence. In fact, I can handle their existence, and I might have what I want to suggest to them would be a better course of action, but it's going to come from a place of love, because I see who they really are. They're really a creature of God Almighty. They're not something to be discarded and disposed of. God is going to all this trouble to bring them to existence. So therefore, this is something that must be God Almighty's will that they exist. So there's nothing wrong with their existence. There may be things that they're saying that are incorrect. So I can now respond to that thing and be able to say something in response to that. But I'm not going to try to nullify the person, because the person himself is being created by God Almighty. Just so this applies to the time that we're in right now, because starting on Shabbos is the beginning of the 9 days, the month of the Jewish month of Av, and on the 9th of Av, which is going to be the following Sunday, that was when the temple was destroyed. The Holy Temple in Jerusalem was destroyed twice, once by the Babylonians and then once by the Romans. And the real underlying cause of the destruction of the second base temple was causeless hatred. People couldn't tolerate each other. They could not stand each other, and therefore they were coming up with all kinds of justifications. Why was it permissible to mistreat the other person? Because they couldn't tolerate them. So the only way to bring about. So sorry about that. Something happened to. Thank you. Something happened to the computer and it went off. Anyways, the point I want to bring out is this is directly related to what we're learning in the Gate of Oneness. When we are able to experience and become aware of and to live in our thought, speech, and action in accordance with the understanding there's nothing besides God Almighty, then we're able to get along with everybody, even the people we disagree with. And what we need to realize is the dissension, the strife is the source of all the problems. When we want to say, well, there's people who have bad plans in the world, there's people who have plans, God forbid, to fight against the world's population. We have people who have bad plans. We see they organize wars and they trigger wars and they create strife and so forth. Their fundamental problem is that they can't stand the fact that there's other people. They can't stand that there's a lot of people in the world. They can't stand that there's many people that prosperous people. They can't stand that there's people who are being successful. They can't tolerate other people. They have all kinds of reasonings. They come with all kinds of reasonings and explanations and theories and ideas. And this person's doing the wrong thing here. This doing the other. This person's enjoying the other party, and this person's not in this party. All kinds of ways for intolerance but the intolerance, the explanations, the reasons and justifications are all really superficial. Internally, there's just an intolerance in an ability to accept the existence of the other person. That's, according to Torah, what the real definition of intolerance is this concept of klipas midyan, that my ego is so expansive that it can't tolerate the existence of another person. It's not a check the box type of intolerance where, in American law, there's a concept of certain protected classes and all this kind of stuff, which is meant to just create more and more distinctions among the people. What the intolerance is, the inability to tolerate the other person's existence. And it has nothing to do with the color of their skin or religion, because you could have a person who's completely and utter of the exact same type of person, in all their superficiality, same religion, same skin color, same beliefs, same action, and they still can't get along. They still can't get along because they can't tolerate each other. That's really where the issue is. So the problem is a spiritual um, intolerance, spiritual inability to tolerate each other, and the solution is to connect to God Almighty. That there's nothing besides God. Then there's not. This other person is not really separate from me because we're all created by God Almighty. So there's nothing for me to not tolerate. How can I not tolerate something that's created by God Almighty? That's what brings about the rebuilding of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. That's what brings about the world, true world peace, where all the world is going to be together serving God Almighty, and not one person trying to rule over the other, not one person trying to get what the other person has. You won't have any need. You will not only you not have any need not to limit the other person, you won't have any need to override the other person, because I will know I'm so secure in my knowledge that God Almighty is creating me and so connected to the reality that I have everything I need and God Almighty is taking care of me, and this other person is also created by God Almighty. I will have no fears. I will have no sense of competition. I will not feel threatened by any other person, and nor will he. And that will apply to all 8 billion and God willing 80 billion of us and even more, because we will all be connected to that one reality that there's nothing besides God Almighty. So I want to wish you all a good Shabbos, and we'll meet again next week. Okay. Take care. You're welcome.